offensively. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I saw you tweet this too. Someone mentioned it to you like as a possibility of going to get a Calvin Ridley or something, or how they're going to look at receiver, maybe get a number one guy. And they did it in Buffalo with Steph Diggs. They went out and got Diggs for Josh Allen. Everyone got knocked down a peg, and that makes that receiving core look really good. What are some other things that you want to change offensively? Maybe you're talking scheme or specific personnel, but if they can go get Ridley, I know there's a big cap hit if they go and do that. But I saw a report from a reporter in Denver had something on this. Benjamin Albright on he said something like, "Wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots and Calvin Ridley unite next year."
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to me. Look, just to caution people out there, because I know, I've earned the moniker the wet blanket of reason, you know, for a reason. And look, you have to understand the Patriots aren't even near there yet as far as
Yeah,
who they might get and who they might target. Like,
right.
so if you hear some guy on Twitter who has a blue check mark and says and attaches Calvin Ridley to the Patriots, it's just them thinking out loud. And
Fair.
really, those people don't know jack about what the Patriots are doing. They don't know jack about their scheme and what they look at and what they prioritize. So
Yeah.
just slow your roll. The Patriots won't get to free agency probably until sometime in February, when they really dial that down. But when you talk offense, first of all, we should talk about, is Josh McDaniels here? I think largely the percentages are pretty high that he's still here. Um, one thing I would keep a look at, I would keep an eye on the Raiders situation. Okay, because Dave Ziegler, I think we might have talked about it on the pod. He has a strong candidate there as GM. When you're Josh McDaniels, people will say, well, his name hasn't been out there. From what I understand, that's been from McDaniels and his camp. They are back to being very selective. Like, they're not going to take, I think there was a sense like when he took the Eagles and the Browns interviews, I think last year, that he took those because there was really for McDaniels, it was hard to envision, all right, what's our future look like? I don't have a hand in picking who's going to be our quarterback next year. We're coming off Cam Newton, we're coming off 7-9. Didn't look very promising. So I'm going to throw my hat into the ring and see what happens with these jobs. I think with Mac Jones and knowing, all right, we have a direction as an offense. This was our baseline. And by the way, their passing, offense as a baseline is a lot better than people want to give it credit for. I mean, I know the Felgers of the world will go on and use stupid stats like yards per game to measure the Patriots compared to other people. But if you look at passer rating, it's Josh Allen, then Mac Jones. You look at, all sorts of advanced analytics over at Football Outsiders, all their quarterback, all their passing offensive stuff. The Patriots were in the middle of the pack with a rookie quarterback. To me, that's pretty good. And I think the Patriots think that's the baseline, and they're looking for a jump into the top 10 next year. And how do they do that? I think largely they think that they can improve. But back to McDaniels. Now with Mac Jones and what they have on offense, I think McDaniels probably has the feeling of, I don't need to be in a rush. I like where we are. We're going to be pretty good. I'm going to have my pick of jobs, and at some point, and if I don't even wait for Belichick to retire here, where I know I need the organization aligned a certain way, where everything's on point, that I'm not being just shoehorned in with, the owner's pet project with analytics, and they have all their analytics guy and they're shoving numbers in front of me, or I got to meet with Jeffrey Lurie every Monday and answer his questions about what happened, and they're mostly based on fantasy football. I think the only job that I see Chicago, and this is all true, this is all
Yeah,
stuff that
I
goes on.
know.
Chicago, I doubt. I don't think he has much interest in that. The Giants just named a new GM from the Bills, so they're likely going, Dayball that side. I don't think McDaniels has any connection. But the Raiders, with Mark Davis, who is hands off, and say what you will about Mark Davis, at least he gives his people opportunity to run their thing. I mean, gave John Gruden a 10-year, $100 million contract and got out of the way,
He also
and so
quick nugget on Davis. He also just hired Becky Hammond as his women's basketball coach at the Las Vegas Aces. He's into like giving people opportunity and rising the profiles of folks.
and
So
that was big. That was big for his dad too. I mean, Al Davis was one of the,
yes,
the forefathers of, black assistant coaches, hired Art Shell as the first African-American coach. So, if Dave Ziegler gets the job in Vegas, and Ziegler worked for McDaniels in Denver. They have a long history. That could be something. If McDaniels moves on, then I assume Bill O'Brien would be number one on the list. He's been interviewing for NFL jobs. I don't think Saban loves Bill O'Brien, so he would
Coach
be
Mac
willing to
Jones.
say goodbye. But then you look at Nick Haley on the staff, Mick Lombardi. But so that I would just keep an eye on that. I'm not saying it was happen. I would probably say 75% McDaniels is back next year, but you never know. Um, I think that, when you talk about the offense, now you need to look at, all right, what worked for us and what didn't. The two tight end thing didn't really work out well with two guys making a combined $25 million. Hunter Henry certainly worked. Jonnu Smith didn't. You have Devin Asiasi, who you kept inactive for basically 2 seasons. Is he ever going to do anything? How can they move? I think Jonnu Smith, the only way they can really move him and not kill the cap with dead cap is a post June 1 trade. So that means he's here for a while. You don't have that cap space. But to me, we've talked about it. I think a quick slot receiver is more important than, say, an outside receiver. I think that
Okay.
Agholor can be better in this system. You would like a speed element on the outside. It's not paramount, but for crying out loud, the Patriots have to find a way to draft one of these guys. They can't keep paying through the nose. And wide receivers grow on trees in college now. Find one and let him be the speed element and develop him and maybe sit behind Agholor for a year, contribute, whatever. But I think you go with Hunter Henry. You probably find a way to get rid of Jonnu Smith. You go to more to a tight end slot scenario with a drafted wide receiver on the outside. If for some reason there's a cheap option that you like, or a cheaper, you're not paying through the nose for like an Allen Robinson or a Calvin Ridley
Yep.
or what have you, then I would take a look at it. But I think the Patriots likely stay the way that they are with a few tweaks. And the belief is internally is that Mac Jones is going to be much better in year 2 after he has a chance to digest everything that he's learned this year.
Some quick follow-ups to that. Why didn't Kendrick Bourne have reps in the slot in San Francisco? Like, why not give that a try?
Yeah, very good question. And I left Kendrick Bourne off. I don't know why, because I think he
Well,
is
because I think
definitely
we're
one
all
of
pretty
your
sure he was a
foundational
hit and he's going to
pieces.
be back, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he so not every slot is the same. So a slot for the 49ers is more of a showpiece. We're going to try to thread the needle down the field. A slot for the Patriots, as you've seen with Wes Welker, with Julian Edelman, those guys go right nose to nose against linebackers a lot of times, or big safeties, and they're getting the snot kicked out of them. And that is not, while Kendrick Bourne certainly has the guts to go over the middle and will make plays over the middle, on occasion, you can't ask them to do that 120 times a year, which that's just on receptions for Welker and Edelman. Forget the other stuff where you're getting
Right.
broken up and beaten up. He just doesn't have the body for that. And Jacoby Myers is a bigger guy and can do that, but he doesn't have the quickness element where you're looking for a chain mover. But I will say, Brendan, for those of you, and you might be in this camp, that is looking to give you a reason why the Patriots might go outside wide receiver, either in trade, free agency, draft, what have you, you could make the argument that Mac Jones isn't Tom Brady in terms of what he likes. You could make the argument that look at Alabama. Look at the way he's thrown some of his deep passes down the sidelines. The one to Nelson Agholor deep, in the Bills playoff game. You could make the argument that Mac is actually better throwing to the outside and prefers that than the inside, as we saw with Tom Brady. So to me, that's one of the things that they need to look at and address and say, all right, we know what we had with Brady. We knew what he liked. Is that the same thing for Mac Jones? If not, all right, then you need to figure that out and go ahead and call an audible and go more towards the outside if that's how you think Mac Jones is going to be most comfortable.
Hopefully, Bill gives Nick Saban a call, not just for his players, but ask Nick how Mac is comfortable, to your point, and give Nick Saban a lot of credit. He's done a nice job of finding top end receiver talent over the last 5 years. Like, these Alabama receivers are freaking nasty. Now, where they're picking,
Yep.
I don't know if they're going to get some of the guys going to the draft, but
They
certainly
grow on trees. Second, third, fourth round. Just start
right
drafting guys. I mean, I couldn't believe the last
everywhere.
2 years with all the wide receivers that were available, and we're hearing, oh, the greatest wide receiver draft ever, and the Patriots don't draft one. I mean,
Yeah, right.
bro, you're killing me.
Well, is it because they didn't hit on Harry and it's like stage fright? Like, let's not do that again. Even though then
It
again,
could be. You would hope it wouldn't be. Just learn your lessons, move on, and say, you know what? Because I studied this a while back when I was at the Globe about the Patriots and their failings at wide receiver, because this has been going on decades. To me, it's
right.
you got to start with speed, intelligence factors with them. You got to be an intelligent wide receiver to play in this system. So I don't care how fast the guy runs. If he can't figure out coverages on the fly, like McDaniels in Denver identified Demaryius Thomas from a run-based offense at Georgia Tech, and Eric Decker in his only real draft with the Broncos identified those guys, and they hit
Home
on it.
run.
Intelligent guys. Demaryius Thomas had the intelligence and the speed and the explosiveness element. Like, they need to find that guy to fit in this offense.
Maybe Josh should run the draft. Those two players are home runs. I mean, I forget.
Yep.
I forgot about Eric Decker and how good he was.
Yep.
And they helped Peyton Manning. That's what attracted Manning to that
Hell
job.
yeah.
It's a great point. Wow. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe Josh liked to kill Harry, because it feels like what you just said was kind of an indirect shot at kill Harry.
Maybe.
Maybe.